Welcome to our explainer on the screenplay for The Christmas Tree Farm. This story asks a really simple question. What happens when a woman who's totally running away from her life literally crashes headfirst into a man who just might give her a reason to stay? Let's get right into it.
So the story opens with this beautiful idea. This isn't your typical love at first sight holiday movie. No, it kicks off with something way more relatable. Pure exhaustion, a generator that won't start, and our main character, Kira North, basically escaping a life that's just lost all its color.
Okay, so Act 1 gets going, and we see Kira trading the cold, impersonal glow of the city for the snowy, quiet streets of a little town. And get this, it's called Dream Harbor. I mean, think about the contrast here. She's leaving behind a life of unpacked boxes and a sad, blinking, fake Christmas tree. And where does she end up? In a town that looks like a postcard, complete with a banner that says, "Welcome home for Christmas." Yeah, a sentiment she is absolutely not ready for. And this farm she inherits, it's not some charming little fixer-upper. Oh no, it's a perfect mirror of how she feels on the inside, broken down and neglected. She actually calls it a Christmas miracle in reverse. In a weird way, this place of total disrepair, it feels like home to her. So, just as Kira is settling into her own cynical solitude, the plot really gets moving. A massive snowstorm is barreling down, and it's about to change everything and bring a very unexpected guest to her door. And things just start happening, fast. First, you've got a severe weather warning crackling over the radio. Then, of course, the generator finally gives up, plunging her into total darkness. And just when you think it can't get any worse, she hears an engine outside. And then, silence. A car has crashed in the blizzard. So Kira goes out and rescues this stranger, Bennett Ellis, from the wreck. And their very first conversation isn't some panicked, frantic exchange. Nope. It's just full of this dry, reluctant wit. This is it, the first tiny little spark of warmth right in the middle of a huge storm. Now they're trapped together by the snow, so they have to improvise. And over this dinner, which Bennett jokingly calls a Michelin-rated disaster, a really fragile connection starts to form. You can feel it. This is the first real crack in Kira's cynical armor. The next day, we meet the real heart of the town, Hazel and Jasper. And it's Jasper, the wise old neighbor, who drops this incredible piece of wisdom. He sees the potential between Kira and Bennett, long before they're willing to admit it themselves. So the storm passes, and now the real work begins. And as Kira and Bennett start to rebuild the farm, they don't even realize it, but they're also rebuilding something inside themselves. You see their partnership grow through all these little moments. They're fixing fences, bickering over whether to play Bing Crosby, and it all leads to this one moment where they're wrestling over the radio knob and just freeze. They're inches apart. And that chemistry, wow, it is impossible to deny. While they're out exploring the property, they stumble upon this forgotten tradition. And this wish tree, it becomes this really powerful symbol of all the hope and history that's just been lying dormant on the farm, waiting for someone to find it again. Reading these old wishes gives them this amazing sense of all the decades of hope that are literally tied to this place. And it's what prompts Bennett to suggest that maybe the tree is just waiting for a new wish. He tells Kira that making repairs and making wishes are, quote, the same thing if you do it right. And then you have this scene. Their connection just hits its peak with a slow dance in the barn. They're surrounded by these little dust motes that look like snow in the moonlight. They are inches from a kiss when, you guessed it, the generator dies. It's a moment of what Kira Riley calls perfect timing. But, of course, just as all this hope is starting to take root, a classic misunderstanding comes along and threatens to bury it all under a fresh layer of frost. And just like that, everything falls apart. Kira overhears this tiny fragment of Bennett's phone call and immediately jumps to the absolute worst conclusion. He's been using her for some kind of business deal. Her walls shoot right back up, and all that warmth between them, it just vanishes. He really tries to break through to her, to understand what happened, but she gives him nothing. She's just a wall of ice. And so he drives away, leaving this huge, empty space behind him. But here's the thing. This time, instead of running away again,
Kira makes a totally different choice. She goes to the wish tree and she ties a new note to it. And it's not a wish for him to come back. It's a wish for the courage to stay, even when it hurts.
All right, the finale. It takes us to the Dream Harbor Christmas Festival. And just when it seems like all is lost, the stage is set for one last town-wide miracle. Just as panic is setting in over a town-wide power outage, Bennett comes back. He reappears out of the darkness and explains he came back because, as he puts it, the tree owed me a wish. He quickly gets to work, restores the power, and all the lights just blaze back to life. And then, in front of the entire town, Bennett grabs the microphone and just lays his heart on the line. He explains the phone call she overheard was about him quitting his old job for good. He came back to ask Kira for a chance to build a real life with her. I mean, this whole journey is just about complete transformation, right? You have Kira, who goes from cynical and totally alone to hopeful and in love. The farm itself is reborn, going from broken and closed off to thriving. And what started as just an escape plan, well, it becomes a place to finally put down some roots. And that's where the story leaves us, with this really beautiful final thought. Love isn't always about some dramatic rescue in a storm. Sometimes it's about the quiet, steady work of building warmth together and just allowing miracles to grow roots right where you are.